Hello, everyone. Welcome to Question Everything, a podcast all about learning from the successes and the failures of those who dared to, question everything. This podcast is part interview, part therapy, and part Price is Right. We have our own game board stacked with questions that'll make even the most successful CMOs sweat. I'm your host, Ashley Walters, CMO and partner at Curiosity. On today's episode, I sit down with Simone and Rachel, co-founders of NBZ Partners, a growth consultancy focused on client and agency matchmaking and helping agencies create an ownable brand and winning growth strategy. On today's episode, they share practical tips on how to set your brand and agency up for future growth, including 3 things you can do to find your superpower, why strong branding is the ultimate pipeline builder, and how you can earn your network. After all, it's not about who you know, but who knows you. Let's get started. We have a 2-guest podcast today. The smart and always best-dressed ladies from NBZ Partners. Welcome co-founders Simone Oppenheimer Mandel and Rachel Segall.
Hello.
How are you?
So honored to be here today.
Man, I am so excited to have you both. You're looking amazing. Love the new swag.
Yours is on the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm dying. I need that sweatshirt in my life. So I just want to brag on you both a little bit. So Simone and Rachel are co-founders of NBZ Partners, a growth consultancy that helps small to mid-sized businesses compete with the big guys. Simone brings 18 years of experience driving new business for agencies like Ogilvy, VMLYR, and Futurebrand. And she's earned herself the nickname Open Hammer, which I cannot wait to learn more about, for her ability to lead them through uncomfortable growth challenges. Rachel is a master brand builder, helping launch iconic brands like Seedlip and leading global accounts for Colgate, Intel, and General Mills in her 15-year career. She's a master at telling brand stories and capturing eyeballs from all across the industry. So welcome officially to the podcast. We're so glad to have you and your incredible expertise. So I'm so curious, tell me, how did NBZ come to be?
Oh my goodness, yes. This is my favorite story to recall, actually. Simone and I met running new business together. I, as you mentioned, come from, almost 2 decades of branding, and we met at a branding firm. It was Simone's first time at a branding firm and my first time actually in a formal new business role. I had run accounts prior to that, so client services. And we came together with this really kind of interesting dual lens on how to create growth for the agency. And it was this idea that brand is a really powerful lever for growth, for business growth. And it felt like marketing 101 in some ways when you think about kind of, what we do for clients all the time, but agencies themselves. And we experienced this at every agency we had worked at up until that point. But agencies themselves do forget how important their own brand is in driving meaningful differentiation in a crowded landscape. And there is no landscape more crowded than the agency landscape. So we invested a lot actually in establishing, a real brand and bringing it to life in a lot of different ways in a constellation of sort of marketing initiatives. We saw a suite of changes in a really short amount of time. I think inside of about 8 or 9 months, we doubled our win rate. We had A-level press pickup. We had a really healthy, active pipeline from clients that we wanted to work with. And then COVID hit, and it was like the world was in free fall, and things had, doesn't need to be said, changed overnight. And the holding companies, that environment just was not conducive to making that kind of pivot quickly. And so we thought, we've proven this. It's not a hypothesis. We know this approach works, and it works for, the holding companies. What if we made this sort of open source and accessible to what we lovingly kind of refer to as the unusual suspects of the industry, the agencies that are diverting from business as usual, the ones that want to do things differently, and that have such a rich opportunity to use their brand in this way, because so often founders are still involved, and you've got incredible DNA to kind of work from. And so we created NBZ to democratize the win and to take everything that we had created and, use this approach and make it make it accessible to the small to medium sized agencies in our industry. And that's what we did. And it was like the world was in free fall. And we thought it's better to take your destiny into your own hands and jump rather than to just fall. And it felt like it was like we've never believed in something more and we've never looked back.
Incredible. I mean, that's the playbook right there, right? It's clients want to work with agencies who show up and who are attractive. And I feel like a lot of times on the agency side, at least, like we don't put enough energy into our brand and our branding and our story. And it's like, we do it for all these incredible global organizations, but we have such a hard time doing it for ourselves. But that's what wins. That's what sets you up for success. That's incredible. I just read the other day that you launched a new product or business line called NBZ Match. I'm so curious, what are you seeing in the industry that made you guys want to bring that into the market?
Well, like Rachel said, our mission was to democratize the win, right? And there is a gap in the industry on a focus for the unusual suspects and to match them with the brands that are looking for the modern current solution for their briefs. And we need to create a stage and an opportunity for these agencies, these small to mid-size independent agencies. We need to create a stage and a platform for them to connect with the clients that are looking for them. We spoke to a lot of clients, a lot of marketers over the past, I would say, 2 years, who continuously told us when we asked them, how are you finding your agencies? And for the agencies, for the clients that are looking to round out their portfolio, they might have a main holding company agency, or they have a new to world brand or new to world product that they're putting into market that perhaps is a challenger that is looking for a different perspective on how to approach it in market. And they were Googling. They told us we're Googling our agency. First, it was word of mouth. And from word of mouth was we Google. And we looked at ourselves, we're like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to represent a connection between these Fortune 500 marketers that are looking for different solutions and the agencies that we were created to support and to love and to democratize the win for them.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that fascinating? Like, one of the most important decisions you can make on behalf of your brand and one of your biggest investments is found via Google.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And so we said, you know what, let's represent this in the marketplace. And help brands. Really, brands and marketers are our clients. Agencies can't pay for this service. That's against the ethical standards of what we believe in today. And we work with them to connect them to the agencies, and not necessarily in traditional ways of long processes, but allowing for flexibility in how you connect with an agency, whether those, setting up coffee dates or, quick chemistry meetings, because we know it's a people business. Finding different ways also within this process is really important for us.
Yeah, and I would just add to that like an intentional effort as we think about our broader sort of business model around NBZ, to never let match sort of become an overwhelming revenue driver for us, because then we're incentivized to have it, cost a certain amount or take a certain amount of time to warrant a certain price tag. There's an aspect of match that marketers get for free as a complimentary service. Again, it's a way for us to further deliver on our promise to agencies. We exist for agencies and the unusual suspects, and that is our North Star that filters all of our strategic sort of decision making, even as it relates to the offering, that we present to marketers too.
That's great. Well, as an unusual suspect, I'm excited to dig into the game board. So you guys know how this works. We've got 12 super secret questions. You don't know what's behind which number, and the power is completely in your hands. So are you guys up for the challenge?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Let's pick number 8.
Okay, so, we were just touching on this. Agency brands matter. So why, in your opinion, do you think agencies are so bad at branding themselves? And do you have any helpful tips on what they should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Rachel and I deal with all the time. I mean, all of our clients come to us, all of our agency clients come to us, so many of them, and need help in figuring out perhaps not necessarily of what makes them special. Like they know in their heart what is their DNA, the good ones, the ones that have really been putting in the work. The question is, how do we connect that, and how do we ensure and pressure test that that's what clients in the external world need and asking for? So how do we take this DNA? How do we take what is special about them and message it in a way that connects with what clients are looking for? And that is a lot of the work we do. Why are agencies bad at it? Rachel and I talk about the hairdresser with the bad haircut, the architect that can't design its own house. There is something that is just gets in the way of doing your own art form on yourself. That we're not necessarily so different from other categories and other professions, and agencies require an external perspective, their own agency, in looking at their brand from an external perspective, and perhaps sometimes telling them what other people are doing, what marketers are looking for, and giving them the tools to do it for themselves.
Yeah, I think also for a brand to be really compelling, it has to be so built in service of a specific audience or someone who's going to consume that brand, and it has to be so really laser focused and again specific. And so I think agencies find that limiting, and there's like a fear of niche. Like if being a strong, compelling brand means I have to put a stake in the ground around who I am and who I'm for and what I do really well, that's going to limit me too much. And I want to go to market with the communication that I can do anything for anybody. And so I'll get all the calls, and that we know for a fact that doesn't work in the marketing that we do for our clients. But I think when you're in charge of a brand and a business, you want to see the business grow. So you want everything, you want all of it. You want to say yes to all of it. But a brand is just as much about being selective about what you say and not distracting from like the core things that really, matter in communicating who you are. And I think agencies are really reluctant to put a stake in the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear around that. I think if you followed our story at all at Curiosity, we went through a pretty big overhaul about 5 years ago where, the name Curiosity was beautiful and brilliant and it meant so many things, but we hadn't done much to actually weave it through our story and our process and our culture. And I think, when you pick something and you double down on it, like for us, I think it was curiosity and what that meant. You really have to like tighten that story, right? And create that thread through everything that you do.
Yeah. So many times agencies come to us and they're looking for a line, right? And the line is never going to be different, right? The line is a string of words that some agency somewhere is going to have. And it's never the line that creates the positioning or creates the brand. It's the behavior, right? It's like, how do I take curiosity, to your point, and how does it impact every choice I make? How does it impact how I brief? How does it impact how I select the clients I want to work with? How does it impact what I look like and sound like?
Who
How
I
does
hire?
Exactly, who I hire? How does it impact what choices from a marketing perspective? I mean, it makes complete sense that you would have a podcast where you're curious about how the world works, right? And so it's about living that positioning. It's about living your DNA, and it's about putting that out in the world and then pulling the things that see themselves in you. Because you've been so committed to who you are, you start being a magnet for the right opportunities and the right people and the right platforms.
Agree. All right. Good advice. Let's go back to the game board.
So how about number 6?
So we talk about this a lot, right? Pitching is a lot like dating. So what, in your opinion, would you say our love lives can teach us about client, brand, agency relationships?
It's interesting. It actually is really connected to what we were just talking about in terms of being yourself. Authenticity in dating is obviously key, right? But if you show your genuine self as early as possible, you'll really learn quickly if there's a compatible match there. Even if you're effective at convincing somebody early on that you are what they want, it doesn't end well typically. If you want a sustainable long-term relationship, it has to be built on, I am exactly what you're looking for. And the quicker and better you can get at communicating that, you'll see a lot more kind of sustainable relationships over sort of, short wins. And I think, again, speaking to the DNA, think about what your unique selling points are even as a person in a dating situation, the same way that you would, as an agency, talking about kind of what makes you different with a client.
And I think that also goes to like what you're pitching. Like if I show up myself, can I win? Right? Either let's hedge it, but I'm still going to show up as myself, right? Or you know what? No, and I can't win, and I'm not willing to take that risk. But either way, showing up as yourself is the only way to have any opportunity to be successful, because trying to be someone else is better at that. Right. And so pitching is all about bringing like 110%. If you can't bring 110% as yourself in order to win, you've lost.
Yeah. I always say too, like passion wins almost every time. Like a lot of agencies are going to come in with a good strategy. I mean, maybe not a lot, but most. When you get to, some of these bigger pitchers, they're all great agencies. Someone's going to have a great idea, maybe even a better idea than you, but passion and showing how much you want the business and how much it's going to mean to you and your team to work on it, I think is an under leveraged like kind of characteristic that not all agencies bring into the pursuit.
Yeah, 100%.
Even the word pitch for me is like really triggering, because I know we use it a lot in our industry and I use it too, but like when you're pitching, like you're trying to get a fastball by somebody, right? You're trying to like throw a curveball. Like when we talk about it internally, we talk about it in terms of it's a pursuit, right? It's a journey. Like we're not trying to trick anybody here, get anybody out. We're really just trying to follow this pursuit and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah. And I know you asked that the question was about love life, right? And sort of dating. And so if you're trying to pursue someone by being somebody else, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just not going to work out. I mean, you might have tricked him or her at the beginning, but Rachel and I talk about like if you want to, if that person wants like a go-getter, like I don't know, a career go-getter, and you're not really want to be that, so that's not really your thing, you can kind of fake it, but then at the end of the day, you have to show in some way and prove and live and behave that way. So it's not a match on either side that necessarily is going to be long-term and fruitful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the moral of the story here, like know who you are, like what's at the core of your DNA. What are you really great at? What are you best at? And it's finding the matches that kind of match to you.
Yeah, I mean, we work with so many founders, right? It's such a rich history and such a rich kind of headspace in terms of like, you decided to take a chance and do this. So let's answer the question, like, what would the world lose if you went away? Because there was something missing that you needed to fill. You decided to take a risk. You decided to, a lot of, agencies, we had to remortgage our house. I told the kids, there's a famous story of this amazing agency that super successful now. But when we were talking to the CCO 5-6 years ago, he was telling us, he told his kids they're going to have to kind of limit spend. They're going to have to, take a break in the summers on their vacations and camps and things like that. And so you're taking a lot of risk and a lot of people aren't in it with you. So there was a gap that you wanted to fill. Get back there and figure out what that was, because it's the thing that's going to differentiate you. It's the thing that's special about you. It's the thing that if you went away tomorrow, that the industry would lose. And after a few years, I think people forget about that and it's not their fault, just the day to day and how crazy the industry is. But getting back there in such a competitive environment and being proud of that and purposeful is what separates the winning agencies from the ones that just get kind of lost.
That's great. All right, back to the game board.
11.
So you've said that your network is your currency. So give us all some tips and tricks for activating our network.
Well, I think we have a mantra that we live by, which is, in activating your network, you have to show up. You have to show up. And that's like, in real life, digitally, across all channels, show up. And, if you're doing all the other things that we've been talking about throughout this conversation, being yourself and putting a stake in the ground, and then also having a presence where the industry is, I think that's sort of step one that, again, gets too forgotten too often, actually, that agencies are not necessarily showing up where they need to.
And I think also it's this idea that you can buy a network or buy a pipeline or somehow you hire someone and the light and the switch is going to turn on and, your network is suddenly going to grow and the phone's going to start ringing or whatever, your email is going to start blowing up. But it's not the case, right? Like Rachel said, showing up. What does that mean? It means putting in the work. A lot of agency leaders come to us and they say, we ran out of friends. You can't buy friends. You can't buy friends in the real world. You can't buy friends in the business world. You have to earn the right to have these friends. You have to spend the time and the effort and do the work. It takes work. And anyone that tells you that it doesn't, anyone that tells you that you should hire them from a consulting perspective or a day-to-day employee, it's just not going to work. And you're not setting yourself up for success. You're not setting the employee or the consultant up for success. It is about putting in the work to expand your network and then showing up like Rachel said, showing up in life, showing up on LinkedIn, showing up in email, showing up doing interesting things like podcasts and thought leadership. It takes work to create a network and to enable your network.
Enabling your network. I think, word of mouth is also the number one vehicle that marketers are using to find their agencies. And so even if you've run through your own friends, they have friends and they have networks. And so if you enable and arm them and empower them with, again, think about it as like a formal channel. What are the assets that I give them? What messaging can I give them so that when they're having a conversation at a barbecue or whatever with a colleague, they know, oh, you need an agency that does that? I've got one, and this is their superpower. This is what they do. This is what makes them different from others. And make sure that they have the things that they need, the tools they need to further that kind of that message across their own network. And I think, if we can maximize word of mouth in that way, that's another really, really interesting way to think about your network.
I think that's so important. And don't be afraid to ask. I mean, I think oftentimes we're like too timid to ask for a referral or a recommendation or, hey, would you introduce me to this person or that? And I've yet to have somebody tell me no. So I think just having the bravery and the courage to ask. You said something about the pipeline that just kind of gave me a chuckle. Somebody in the industry I was talking to, and she asked me, so like, how many cold callers do you have? And I was like, you're asking the wrong question. Like, you don't need anybody like if you are cold calling anybody right now, like just stop. And we got to talk about what the bigger problem here is. Like, it really does go back to building that brand and your story. That will help fill your pipeline more than hiring any kind of a lead generation service.
Totally. I have an inappropriate metaphor, which is when
I'm here for it.
I was getting divorced. My ex-husband said that my lawyer has a commercial, right? Okay, if your lawyer needs a commercial, something's wrong with the lawyer.
I love
if your
that.
agency requires a lead gen person, something is wrong with the agency brand. And we need to figure out what to do to fix that, to get it into a way that is going to resonate with the external world. Something is broken, and it doesn't mean the agency is broken. It's a marketing problem, not necessarily a product problem. And that is what this industry does best.
That's right. Great advice. All right, let's go back to the game board.
Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Let's go with number 3.
Okay, so you guys are known for having a very active and amazing Slack community in which I am very blessed to be a part of. So I'm not going to spill any secrets, but what can you tell our listeners about your super secret, amazing Slack community?
I'll say a couple things and then I'll hand it over to Simone. But I think, one thing that really struck us is as we were building the community, we were told over and over a Slack channel that is exclusively made up of agency new business professionals will not do well because they are notoriously private and secret and, keeping cards close to their chest and nobody's going to share. And we have found the complete opposite. I think even in areas, delicate areas, perhaps, everyone is so conscientious about what is shared, never exposing their own agency, but so transparent and so generous with things that again, I think make the bar raised on the industry as a whole. And I think we all have that mentality. And, so in terms of specifics, I don't know if Simone, if there's specifics that you want to share, but I think across the board, we're seeing so much more generosity and transparency around ways of working and, lessons learned and things that really are about, living generously, which is another sort of core tenet of NBZ and how Simone and I work.
I mean, I think it's just tapping into this idea and this feeling that new business people or leaders of agencies that are responsible for new business feel like they're on an island sometimes. And there's this kind of older historical guardrails around you as a new business person, and there's no socialization, and there's like a lack of community. And I think we just like tapped into something where we're like, you know what, we can share and we can be better together. And of course there's limits to what we want to share. Just like humans, we have limits to what we know is appropriate to share and not, but we crave the camaraderie and the community. And we tapped into just something that lit that up in people. What do they share? They talk about, we are responsible for growth numbers, and there's a lot we ask of our agency to invest in us to hit that, right? And we want to be conscientious that the investments that we're asking our agencies are going to be fruitful. So there's conversations around what events are working for you, right? Those are expensive things, right? What awards feel like they are creating the most conversation. I have been given a budget to create a team, right? What type of roles or what type of structure works best for, let's say, a new business and marketing team that works together? What in people's experience works best? Does anyone have anyone to hire in these roles? Does anyone want to hire someone that I know is available for new business? My leadership has, targets that they want to hit. What kind of plan can I create, and what should that look like and feel like, that leads the team on a kind of a work plan to get there? What does that growth plan look like? What should it look like? I mean, it's anything from kind of foundational new business tools all the way up to, congrats on the huge promotion. And someone said it feels like a warm hug when you enter the Slack.
That's great. I know I've really benefited from just meeting lots of new people. And like you said, anytime we're headed to Boston for a small agency and there's a group now that's talking about Boston and how we could all meet up. And I think the island thing is really interesting too. I know I've personally experienced it on teams that I've been a part of, where you feel like business development is kind of reserved for an elite group of individuals, and they're kind of tucked away in the office. The door is locked. Nobody really knows what's happening in there, and it can get a little lonely and I don't know, like you're not getting the support and the visibility within an organization that you need. And I know for me, that was like a big thing when I got the opportunity to run a team, was like, no, we need full transparency. Business development is everybody's responsibility. And how do we get people excited about that and want to participate in it versus saying, oh, no, that's too hard or that's extra work. And I don't want to be a part of that team. So yeah. I've really appreciated that. And I will tell you, so just like a personal story for me, we had been just like cranking on new business and winning a lot. We were on a big, huge winning streak. And then we had 2 big losses back to back. And you kind of like, you got to take a deep breath and reevaluate everything, of course, because that's what we do. And I posted just something in the Slack channel that said, hey, we're coming off a couple of hard losses. How do you guys collect feedback and share it with your team and action against it? And I got so many responses that I actually went in and developed a whole like post-pursuit process on how we collect feedback, give feedback, and learn from our wins and our losses. So
that's so nice. That's so nice to hear. Yes. Again, generous. And then resharing that, what you've developed. I know you reshared it with the community. Yeah. And so that kind of like just cycle of just like learning and sharing is just going to raise us all up. It's going to raise all of the agencies, especially the unusual suspects, up.
Yes. Thank you. That's great. Thank you for the community. All right, let's go back to the game board.
Number 1.
Let's go. Number 1. So let's talk about technology. How do you guys think technology is changing business development?
I think that, yeah, I mean, AI isn't just all technology, but it is definitely something that we're hearing everybody talk about. And certainly Simone and I are looking for ways to, use AI more and more, even in our own business. And I think that, there's obviously limitations to things like Chat GPT, but we're seeing a lot of interesting tools pop up we did actually a virtual event with our membership community around using AI for RFIs? And is there like a streamlined way to start thinking about how we approach some of those really cumbersome kind of things, but still making it feel rich and customized and sort of personal to the agency? I think equally, Simone and I have also invested for our members in a platform called Waldo, which is another kind of AI powered research tool that we're finding really helpful and useful in thinking about like smart start decks and prospecting strategies. So I think there's a lot of AI tools right now that are starting to pop up that have interesting applications, I think, for new business as a discipline.
I mean, I think everything Rachel said, and I think that because new business people, so much of our time is in like the minutia and the detail and the stuff that is pulling together sources and organizing things and pulling from here and pulling from there, that I think right now what AI is doing well for new business is helping us with that stuff, helping us with the efficiency of what has been so inefficient for new business people for so long, and is the stuff that we want to kind of like scratch our eyes out with, right? And so helping us craft emails faster, helping us pull together RFIs from different sources that we would have had to pull like through our databases and our servers ourselves, organizing things like Rachel said, the smart start decks that would take, who can help us with this? Oh, nobody's available from strategy. No one's available from account. I guess we'll have to do it, right? And so the stuff that just takes time, and that our time would be better suited doing things that you need to be like a human to do. I think it's just allowing us and freeing us up to do that work.
Yeah, I think Waldo's a great solution. We'll definitely link to them in the podcast notes. But I know where everyone's trying, some pursuits take forever, let's be honest, but I do think the industry is getting much better at speeding up the pursuit process. I always tell my team, we typically have about 14 working days to go from completely unaware to solving all of their marketing challenges, at least solving the brief, right? And so what you do in those 14 days, like, is so important. And I think AI is really great in those early phases just to speed you up and get you to solving the challenge much faster.
Exactly.
And I think, to Simone's point, freeing you up to be even more present in some of those moments, the human moments that have to be, really turned up to volume 11 too, because it's still a people's business and you still have to be able to pursue a relationship, but like, systematize and streamline the things that are kind of holding us back from that or weighing us down.
That's great. All right, back to the game board.
Okay, let's do number 9. Oh wait, sorry, Rachel, it's your turn. Sorry, no, you pick.
Well, we're kind of all over the place now, to be honest. I'll go with 9 too.
Oh, I'm dying to know this. So share your tips, anything that you can help us with on having the best meeting in the shortest amount of time and having the client gauged the entire time. That's the goal, right? That's the end goal. And I think I read somewhere that you said, like, that's really what we're aiming to do. So any tips? How have you seen people show up and make that happen?
Okay, the shortest using like, if we have 30 minutes with a client, how do we make sure we have the best 30 minutes, right?
That's right.
I mean,
and keep them engaged and not bore them to death.
So honestly, I think this might be, there's things like know who you are, make sure you get through that fast, do your homework, make sure you know who the client is, get to their business problems, like things that I think we all know as professionals. Here's unpopular opinion, perhaps.
Love those.
Perhaps that's the opposite.
Usually I know what she's going to say. I don't even know what she's going to say right now.
So new business is not a democracy, right? And throwing and I guess creating a meeting and pulling in team members that perhaps cannot deliver the best meeting in 30 minutes, because that is a talent and that takes experience and that takes seniority. is not going to get you the best use of your 30 minutes. Put in your best people, right? And I'm sorry if people's feelings get hurt. It doesn't mean they can't be off camera and like learning and absorbing, because training the next level of talent, especially for new business, is so, so important. So don't confuse that. I'm not saying that. However, the people that have the experience, the seniority, and the chemistry with each other will get you a good 30 minutes. And I would say that doesn't happen enough.
Yeah.
I think we become too nice from a new business perspective.
Even if it means someone doesn't get to present their own creative idea, or someone else is taking kind of the lead in areas that doesn't feel natural from internal dynamics. But I think, yeah, to Simone's point, you want the best of the agency to demonstrate the highest potential of the agency, and that takes the best people in the room.
So let's like tap into something like kind of controversial then. Like, what's your take on pitch teams? Love them, hate them?
Like pitch teams that are always pitching, and then
it's like
and
the
then you
same team every pitch.
Well, it means you're not training people. It really means you're not training people. I would say that having a understanding of who is best, and then how you are training people to get there, right? And so setting that caliber within an agency and doing learning and development, doing lunch and learns, doing pairing people together to be able to train the next team and the next team, so that you have a few of the best pitch teams. If you have only one pitch team, to me, it's shouting that you haven't invested in training anybody.
I agree. One of the first things that I did is, once we wrote the Pursuit playbook, and I highly suggest anybody listening do something very similar, is I put every single employee through an onboarding. And now every new hire that comes through Curiosity, including interns, are trained on our process from within the first week that they start. And it has been an absolute game changer in terms of the pool of people we can bring in to Pursuits. Train your people.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready,
Yes.
Make sure that everybody is just, ready to get off the bench at any given moment.
Love that. All right, let's go back to the game board. I think we have time maybe for 2 more. Yep, let's go. We're almost going to clear this board.
Rachel, you take another one because I stole your last one.
Let's go with 5.
Okay, so let's talk superpowers. You've touched on this a little bit, but I think it's so important for an agency and a brand to really know who they are, what they stand for, and what is that like one thing that they bring that nobody else can bring. And I know you train agencies and help agencies in discovering and uncovering and figuring out the story behind it. So I'm curious, any advice you can give to agencies now who are kind of in that process and looking to uncover theirs?
Yeah, we have kind of an unofficial formula that we think about, and of course exercises that help kind of bring all of this out. But the first thing we think about is like, what's your core capability? And I think part of it is like, how do we create wayfinding a little bit for clients? Like, what aisle of the grocery store am I going to find you in? What kind of agency are you? There's a lot of agencies that are sort of, trying to, we're the anti-agency, we're this fancy word, that fancy word, but like, just plainly spoken, what is your core capability? What are kind of some of the key differentiators, within your DNA? So we think about like, what's your founder's kind of background? And, maybe there's he came from the newsroom. Well, then we've got this sort of editorial vibe that's sort of a unique thing about us that even other digital agencies might have similar capabilities. We have an editorial spin on ours because of where our founder comes from. Or, there's a whole lot of a constellation of things DNA wise that I think, would be really interesting to kind of pull out. And then the last thing is, what are the ideal briefs, the ideal client that you exist to solve or exist to work with or exist to partner with? If we think about those 3 things, and again, not being scared to limit ourselves and really put a stake in the ground, like what is our core capability? What are the things that make us different from other agencies that tout that same capability? And what is our dream brief? And those things start to really shape up a nice kind of superpower and a space that you can own, because the DNA makes it uniquely yours. And, I think that's kind of, those are the things that we look at in terms of kind of an equation or a formula. But again, there's a zillion ways you can kind of slice it.
That's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What do you think? Okay, let's go back to the game board. Which one's it going to be?
Ashley, you pick this one.
Oh man. Okay, hold on. Let me look at the team. Is there one you guys are dying to do? 10. It sounds like it's number 10. All right, let's go.
Uh-oh.
I honestly don't even know what's behind all of these. All right. So, what do fewer AOR gigs and more project based work mean for our industry? And why should clients enter a real relationship with an agency?
A real relationship meaning an AOR?
An AOR relationship, yeah, versus like project based.
So I would say, what does the shift mean? I would say there's a lot of, and we work with them, a lot of wonderful, but like legacy agencies, one that have like a lot of history in the industry that are need to shift basically everything, how they operate, right? How they invest in clients, um, how do they create teams? How do they client manage? How do they deal, when it comes to budgeting and scoping, right? It's literally an entire relook at everything that you believed has been true over the past 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So that's, a hard pill to swallow, but we work with a lot of them in helping them shift all of that, and understanding what they need to do to stay competitive today. From I would say, a more of a newer agency, so I would say last 5 to 10 years-ish, I would say this is what the world expects of you, is to know how to operate with a project-based mentality. It doesn't mean that project-based can't start looking like an AOR, but it requires you to continuously invest in it, to be proactive, to have a new business sensibility, even when they are clients, right? So when you are so project-based, you're forced for everyone to operate as if you're continuously trying to win the business. When you are more of an AOR, have more of an AOR relationship, I think that we flex in different areas, and those two are not necessarily the same.
Yeah, I think it just reinforces the need for a strong brand, because you want people consistently seeking you out as a partner, and because you're going to need that pipeline. To Simone's point, a lot of the AOR relationships, and the days of being able to just consistently put out work with the ongoing relationships that you have, you're going to have to kind of go to market more, with a more fierce proposition, and command that attention, to get the kind of pipeline that really will facilitate sustainable growth.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much to unpack there. I think for us, what I see daily is like we try to take on a few important projects in a given year that we're excited about, the team wants to work on, and maybe the budgets are a little bit smaller. So we're willing to make kind of that investment and take a chance on it. And the hope is that, yeah, our people can convert them into more of a longer term relationship, but we get to see what it's like to work together. And some of them, it ends up not being a good fit, and that's okay. It's almost like, you're entering a pay to pitch kind of a mentality where it's like real work. So we're seeing how we're going to work together, and, you hope most of them convert, and some of them might not, but we very intentionally try to create space so that we can say yes to some of those opportunities.
Totally. And again, in enforcing new business mentality and behavior into everybody at the agency, I think or what does organic growth mean at that point when it's so project based? It means a more aggressive approach to new business for clients that you've had in the past, and it's a change in behavior from what we've seen at agencies as it relates to growth.
Yeah. And I think not forgetting some of those AOR clients too, right? Like you have to know the ones that you should be investing in and really pouring extra into, so that those continue to grow and they continue to see you showing up in your best ways possible. Like we will often say, like, love the one you're with, like you got to put some of that BD energy and love into those accounts too.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure. Yes. It's knowing the ones that you have to continuously love, that
Yeah.
somehow lose their shine when they're with you for so long. But you have to remind yourself how lucky you are, and how you have to keep inspiring them and be proactive, right? I think what we see all the time is that one of the biggest reasons why AORs leave agencies is because they feel a lack of proactiveness as it relates to creativity or strategy or research or thinking or people and resources, and continuously investing in them is what creates longer relationships.
Yeah, anticipating their needs, right? The more you know about them and their business, the more you can anticipate what they. When I was pregnant, I always told my husband, "Can't you just like anticipate my needs?" And he would show up with water sometimes, be like, "Look, this is me anticipating your needs." So, it goes back to the
He's an AOR.
Yes, the ruthless specificity around who you exist for, even within kind of a client portfolio that's like, all right, fine, we kind of took that because we needed revenue or whatever, but like we know within that roster who are our people. Like those are the clients that like no matter what, we bend over backwards. These are the ones that we pour ourselves into, and you have to know that because they are your North Star, and that is what is going to take you into the future and really manifest that vision for the agency that, again, if you go back to why you founded it in the first place, what is our biggest ambition, and how are every client that you work with, every piece of work that you do either reinforces that vision or it distracts from it and takes you longer to get there. And so, really being super, super specific and crystal clear on like your perfect ideal match in terms of a client is so important. It's just so, so important.
Full circle. That is like the perfect ending to this conversation. All right. Before I let you go, are you guys up for a little game of this or that? It's our little .fun question. So we have a few that we have put together for you ladies. Okay. Are you ready? Here we go. Top of mind. So just fast. Okay. Do you guys prefer tailored coffee chats or full scale reviews?
Tailored coffee chats.
Okay. Me too. Okay, coffee or bourbon?
Bourbon.
I'm a cold brew coffee person, so I have to say coffee.
Love that. Slack or email?
Email for me, honestly.
I love Slack. Why don't I say that? Slack.
All right, we got both. I'm team email. H&M or Zara?
Zara.
Yeah.
Here we go. I think. Okay, New York or Portland?
New York. To the day I die. New York.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. What's the best way for agencies or brands to reach out to you?
You can email us at hello@nbzpartner.com. You can DM us on LinkedIn or Instagram. We love meeting new people, new agencies, new clients. Because
say hi in Boston. If you're a small agency, we'll be there. Have a drink.
Yeah, we love meeting new people.
Awesome. Your network is your currency.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everybody. Curiosity. Really, really appreciate it.
This was awesome.